Good, are we? Very good. So again, 6 o'clock, this is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, May 28th. I'd like to open the meeting. It is still 6 o'clock. And Brandy or Rachel, can you denote roll call? Thank you. And Colleen, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Next item is item number 3, approval of the minutes. We have 1 minutes. That sounded strange, but it's April 23rd, 2024. Is there a motion or any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Shannon. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Colleen. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining?
I would like to abstain, Jim.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
So that passes 5-0-1. Appearances before the commission. I have none with me right now. And looking around the audience and online, I don't think there's anybody that's not on the agenda item. So I will move to action and recommendation items. Item 5.1, discussion and recommendation on a preliminary and final plat for the Riverstone plat between Windsor Road and Bellflower Drive in Conservancy Place, Village of DeForest, Dane County, Wisconsin. Does anybody want to kick that off? I'm assuming staff. Brandy?
Yeah. So what you have before you is a request for a preliminary and final plat recommendation to the village board. This is for the Riverstone Townhome properties that Brian Sipple, BJS Design, received approval for off of the extension of Bellflower Point. What these plats are for is, we've done this in the past with many of the condo plats, is for financing purposes. And so people can obtain mortgages on the plats. We have to split them up into separate parcels. So what I'm looking for tonight from the commission is the recommendation to the village board on the preliminary and final plat for Riverstone.
Thank you, Brandy. And the staff's recommendation is up on screen in the green box. Is there any further discussion or a recommendation?
I would make a motion to recommend village board approve the preliminary and final Riverstone plot, subject to the condition that prior to the addition of the village signatures and recording of the final plat, the applicant shall verify that the plat has been approved by the State Department of Administration.
Thank you, Colleen. That is a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Item number 5.2, discussion and action on a resolution approving 2 certified survey maps further dividing lots 4 and 5 of CSM 16-431 within the DeForest Yards Development Village of DeForest. It looks like that will be Mark kicking off
Yes.
that discussion.
One moment. You all are familiar with the DeForest Yards development. And that development included 5 lots. Each lot had a different kind of core land use, sometimes two on it. The applicant is now looking to further divide two of those lots. This too is for financing purposes. Sounds like a familiar theme so far. The first lot proposed for division was known as Lot 4. It's at the southern edge of the DeForest Yards development. It includes the largest of the apartment developments within it. That development included 3 buildings. Each of the lots would cover one of the buildings plus parking and yard area. The second certified survey map would further divide Lot 5. Lot 5 was and is the lot that contains, come on, baby. Come on, there we go. Contains the community building with the pool on the south end and another apartment building on the north end. This certified survey map for both financing purposes and likely because the owner will be different on the 2 lots is proposed to be divided in 2 as well. This is a relatively straightforward action. It, in my opinion, it requires only plan commission approval because there's no additional public street dedication. It doesn't change the prior approvals. The land uses are exactly the same as they were and will be. The action would be by resolution of the plan commission. Proposed resolutions now on screen. It's labeled 2024-909. That resolution would approve those 2 CSMs, which are exhibits to the resolution, subject to 2 conditions. One of them has some substance to it. The first condition is to amend a easement that provides for cross access and shared parking among the lots to incorporate these 2 lots, particularly as it relates to Lot 5. And the second condition labeled 1B would for that Lot 4 division, the one with the 3 apartment buildings, specify that if in the rare possibility that those lots are bought and sold separately in the future, there would be common maintenance of the 3 buildings and access to the facilities among the buildings in the future. This would be our last crack at it. Well, lands can be bought and sold once this certified survey map is approved without village permission. So this restriction would assure that the development would be taken care of as a unified whole regardless of ownership. I will be happy to answer any questions on the resolution or the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion from the committee members? I guess, Mark, are you in control right?
Yes.
You want to pull up the resolution or the recommendation so we can see them?
Yeah, there's the recommendation is simply to approve this resolution.
Anybody? Colleen?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-909.
I'll second.
So motion by Colleen, seconded by Jean. Any further discussion?
I believe Lisa raised her hand. We can't see her at the moment.
Okay.
Thank
Lisa.
you, Mark. I was going to make a motion to approve. So, yeah, I was just, somebody beat me to it.
Thank you. Any discussion, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. So item number 5.3 is a public hearing on an application for conditional use permit to allow indoor vehicle washing and consumable LP tank staging within the WP Wellhead Protection Overlay District. and to allow outdoor storage areas on parts of a parcel of two parcel numbers denoted on the agenda east of Pepsi Way in conjunction with the proposed Quick Trip satellite campus in the village of DeForest. And I'll be opening this public hearing at 6:10. Does staff want to open the public hearing or just?
Yeah, I'll just explain what's going on this evening. I think this is the third time Quick Trip has been before the Planning and Zoning Commission or some form of action or review. The first being in the fall associated with the urban service area amendment. The land is now in the urban service area and in MMSD's service territory. And the second time, I believe, was maybe just last month associated with the rezoning of the land, and the commission recommended rezoning of the Quick Trip campus, and following which the village board approved the rezoning. Why we're here tonight is to review three, maybe four things. Conditional use permit. That conditional use permit is associated with a couple of activities within the 1,200-foot wellhead protection zone for well number 6. You can just make out the well 6 site on the south east or southwest corner of this particular map. The second thing the Quick Trip is here for is for site plan approval. That site plan approval is for the distribution center, which is in the lot 1 shown in blue, which would be off of a easterly extension of Pepsi Way, actually a westerly and easterly extension of Pepsi Way in the southwest quadrant of the 5119 interchange area. And then the second site for which Quick Trip is seeking site plan approvals labeled as Lot 3 in gold on the map here. That site would be for the fleet maintenance facility associated with their operations. At a later date, we will likely get a site plan submittal for Lot 2 for a potential care center, medical care center. But that's not on tonight's agenda. The third thing that's on the agenda is for a certified survey map to divide the land and dedicate road rights of way. You're looking at a hunk of that map right now. And the fourth item, which I'll talk about later, is the potential for a vacation of a segment of Metro Drive that will no longer be required for travel as a travel way with this development. But again, that'll come later and I'll talk more about that. The public hearing is technically on the conditional use permit. Oh, I failed to mention one thing. There are some small aspects of outdoor storage within the project in a few different locations. They are identified on this map here. Some dry goods storage on the distribution center site, some other storage that's associated with a fleet maintenance operation on that site. Those also require a conditional use permit, in my opinion. They're fairly minor components, but I think past the threshold of warranting a conditional use permit. So with that, I think I'll close my opening remarks, and when we get to the action items, I can talk more about where we're at with the approvals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Is there anybody wishing to speak under the public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:14 and move on to item number 5.4. Discussion and action on a resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow indoor vehicle washing and consumer LP tank staging within the WP Wellhead Protection Overlay District and outdoor storage areas, and to approve site plans for the satellite distribution center and fleet maintenance facility, all in conjunction with the proposed Quick Trip satellite campus over all or parts of 2-3 parcel numbers denoted on the agenda east of Pepsi Way, village of DeForest. And I'm going to also open the discussion and recommendation on 5.5, which is discussion and recommendation on a certified survey map dividing into 3 lots and public road right of way 68.08 acres between the east end of Pepsi Way and Highway 51 for the Quick Trip Satellite Campus, Village of DeForest. So discussion is open for 5.4 and 5.5. Mike?
Can you go to the map, please? Thank you, Mark. My question really has to do with that, what appears to me to be a really clunky kind of intersection, Metro and Pepsi, and
Okay, let's
is there?
chat about it a little. Yeah, Brandy, where is that graphic that I emailed you this afternoon? Where would I find that? Okay. So you may remember that we had some different alignments over the course of the last 6 months for that intersection. And eventually now the recommendation is a free flow intersection for Pepsi Way to connect all the way through from its eastern end to Highway 51. And there it was. Oh, very good. So this is how it would look at that intersection. So currently, what the street that's called Metro Drive comes straight west from Highway 51 across the couple of cross-hatched areas you see here on this map. And for reasons I can't explain, does a 90-degree turn and heads to the south, serving development to the south. Everything to the west of there is actually a private driveway. The proposal, as I suggested earlier, is that Pepsi Way would free flow into the intersection. There are people here that can describe the intersection improvements a lot better than I can, but there will be a signalized intersection at 51 Metro Drive, completely redesigned intersections, providing access to the Quick Trip campus, the other users already here, including Camping World, and to DeForest Yards to the east. The Metro Drive will cease to become an east-west street and only be a north-south street that will connect into Pepsi Way for 500 feet west of the intersection with Highway 51. This segment that's in the red crosshatch of Metro Drive would be removed, restored to green space. There's an item on the agenda that could still provide for the vacation or the actual release of that land from village control. After discussing that item following the release of my report, staff is of the opinion that the village should instead hang on to that for whatever future use it might hold for intersection redesign or enlarging of the crossing of 51 and Pepsi Way or whatnot.
Thank you, Mark. I think my concern probably isn't so much Pepsi Way as the clunky way Metro Drive. You know, I can envision large travel trailers coming out of the Gander area, semis and whatnot. And that just looks like a sort of a convoluted set of turns for larger vehicles to engage with.
Yeah, I guess I would announce Craig Matthews. I know you did some truck turning templates on that. Could you explain that?
Yeah, we recognize the challenges of that intersection. Rookie, sorry. Yeah, we recognize the challenges with that intersection from the get-go. And, you know, as Mark is referring to different alignments, you know, we had a Pepsi Way teeing into Metro Drive at one time, and we had some discussions on that, and, you know, that prevented the free flow of traffic that I think we were really trying to achieve there with traffic coming down Pepsi Way and reaching the Highway 51 intersection. So this alignment was revisited as a preferred alternative to facilitate that free flow condition. And I would say establishing the curb and gutter and the radiuses there was 100% driven by turning movements. So we've got the auto turn software that we use to model trucks and, well, actually truck, because that's going to be the worst case scenario, but we made sure that all those truck turning movements would be accommodated at that intersection. So
Thank you.
Yeah, as the commission knows, there's about 100 pages of plans in your packet, and I can go to them, talk about clunky. It'll be a little clunky for me to do that, but there's more detail that shows that certainly within your packet.
Okay, anything else, Mike?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? I guess I got a few things that I could run through, I believe relatively quick. I just wanna, I wrote them down, but I think a lot of them are gonna be questions for you, Craig, but the Token Creek, I know that's like a thermally controlled stream. Is that taken into account in our stormwater plan?
Yes, and you know, we're meeting the site development is meeting the 90% infiltration, and the infiltration best management practices facilitates the cooling of the water. So that would be addressed through that practice.
Okay, thank you. And I think maybe this is a question for Mark or whoever wrote the comments. There was talking about sidewalk connections to the buildings, and I didn't quite understand where those were located. There was at least a suggestion.
Yeah, one of the recommendations in the resolution is to provide a connection from the corner of the distribution center, which houses the office-related functions of that building, and connect that via walkway to Pepsi Way. Within Pepsi Way, there will be a 10-foot wide multi-use path that you see in gray on this graphic on screen right now. Along the south side of the building, where the public access and employee access will be to the building, there's a walkway that you see in the kind of stipple pattern, black and white pattern here. My suggestion for both access and maybe a little bit of aesthetics was to, and I'm just going to try to trace it with the arrow, is to connect the end of that down to the pathway to provide for pedestrian access to and from the entrance to the building.
Thank you. I personally appreciate that. And is that in the conditions then?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any discussion? I don't remember reading about having bicycle storage locations.
I included it as a suggestion, you know, loops in a couple of spots. This would again be an appropriate location for that. For industrial buildings, we have not typically required bike loops, and I've followed that practice here by not suggesting that be a requirement, but it is a suggestion.
Okay, thank you. And I was curious, there was a term of a right size in quotes of the driveway. I didn't know exactly what that meant, and I think that was actually in the resolutions.
We've worked the driveway openings are kind of in the bluish gray color on Northtown Road and Pepsi Way. You know, this is the concrete approach section for the driveway that you go over before you cross the path. They're all seem to be of appropriate width, except for one, the one that I've got the arrow on right now. And so it's just a matter of, I think, cleaning up the map to make the driveway or make the approach of compatible width to the driveway it's serving.
Okay. And I'm looking at, I think my last comment is just about Pepsi Way. I guess I talked with staff just before this meeting that Pepsi Way is not technically a collector yet. We sort of suspect that it would be in the future, not say soon. But if it was a collector, our ordinance state that it should have sidewalk on both sides, and right now it's proposed as a path on one side. That's all correct, right?
That's all correct. Do you want me
Well-
to talk about that a little or, okay?
If you want, or I can just sort of state my opinion, I personally like to see sidewalk on both sides as it more or less matches what's on the other side of 51 with Williamson Drive. I know it does not match what's on Pepsi. My opinion, Pepsi was developed at a older standard. So hopefully at some time that will be improved. One suggestion I had made is sort of more or less a halfway step, as if we look at the typical section of the roadway. To me, it looks like if you shift the paved road a bit north, you can allow at least for a future sidewalk. Right now, we're at the location of the road, it would be difficult. You'd only have like a 1.5 foot terrace.
This is the road section Jim's referring to.
Can you zoom in on that, Mark? What is the
Yeah.
terrace width on the south side?
6.5 feet.
And then 8 on the north side.
I don't know
Yes,
if
we-
this matters to you, Jim. Pepsi Way, that existing segment that is built has got roadside ditches along it. Not saying it couldn't be changed, but it would, be a challenge to get pedestrian facilities on that part of it. So that was part of the consideration.
The challenge, what we have to overcome right now is there might be a design challenge as well, but the right of way that we have shown on the certified survey map and the engineering plans for Pepsi Way is 66 feet. So to accommodate a trail on one side and a trail on one side and a sidewalk on the other, we've learned doesn't really fit in 66. We need to go to at least 70. And you can see this 80-foot right of way for Northtown Road, which is exactly what it's developed at north of 19. Has the sidewalk and path on both sides with a, generous enough terrace to do all the things terraces need to do.
Okay, well, mainly I wanted to bring that up for a discussion because we could either, if that was a desire of the committee or the village board, I don't know where this ends up landing. We could either shift the center line of the pavement or potentially ask for a sidewalk easement and not necessarily right away.
That's also true. We've done that in places.
Okay, and that's all my comments at this time.
Jim.
Oh, Jean?
So this is just a question I just wanted to throw out there. So since we're gonna do an improvement at Pepsi Way and 51, and it's my understanding that will become a signalized intersection. Has any thought been put into the closure of North American Lane as it connects to 51, which is further south? And the reason why I ask is because for safety consideration, if that were closed off, that southern one on 51, the traffic then can be diverted up then to the new Pepsi Way and then out onto the highway that way, rather than come out further south, very close to that ramp. Is that an opportunity for discussion or change?
Hi, Gene, this is Craig. So in all of our conversations with the DOT, they have indicated that will be closed.
Oh, okay,
And you might be aware, but they are actively studying that corridor. And
okay,
it's gonna be something that comes out of that study.
okay. All right, that sounds good. Thank you.
Anybody else discussion? So if we could go back, we're on item 5.4 and 5.5 for discussion, but if you could pull up, say 5.4's recommendation.
Sure, they are, and in fact, both encompassed within this resolution 2024-910. So I'll buzz through it real quickly. So this resolution covers both the conditional use permit for the activities within the wellhead zone and the outdoor storage, and the site plan for both the distribution center and the fleet maintenance building site. Beyond the whereas clauses, the first now therefore be it covers that conditional use permit for the those two activities I mentioned already. Links the effective date of that conditional use permit to actually pulling a building permit and to the facilities that are shown on the maps that I can hop to. And they're the same maps that I had up earlier. They would also be connected to a spill prevention and mitigation plan that is in your packet and would be implemented by the operator Quick Trip. The second, be it further resolved clause covers the site plan approval for both of the sites. They're listed by address for the distribution center and the fleet maintenance building. The approval would be per all the plans that were in your packet, A through G listed there. And then condition 2 requires some tweaks to those plans. They relate to some minor things. The few things that Jim mentioned earlier, connecting the east end of the walkway south of adjacent to the distribution center to the public trail. That's where that appears, Jim. There's some landscape plan enhancements that are recommended as part of the conditions. Otherwise, some pretty minor T crossing and I dotting. The plans are in really good shape, in my opinion. If we wanted to have some additional easement area or right of way for a future sidewalk on the south side of Pepsi Way, we could include another condition that would specify that in the plans. And then when we get to the CSM approval under 5.5, we can talk about that a little bit more.
Mark, could you go back to, I think it's 1G? So just interested in the impact of this condition. Obviously, that has to happen. I'm thinking of that in terms of timing because that whole intersection project is on a separate path. Kind of, it's covered by another development agreement associated with the Cascade development. And so just kind of curious what the impact of that approval condition would have in terms of Quick Trip getting started on their project. Clearly, nobody wants Quick Trip to open up until that intersection is improved and signalized. I just thinking about it in terms of how it might, affect a plan approval or a construction start.
It's listed there. I listed it there so that the two projects would be tied together. That you can't do a Quick Trip without the signals. You need the signals to do the Quick Trip. But I didn't tie any part of its construction to the issuance of a building permit. So Quick Trip could get started on that before the intersection was done or finally approved. Not that WSDOT would act slowly, but in the case it did, we could still move forward on other things.
Oh, good. Thanks for the clarification. And again, absolutely need that intersection improved. Just curious on the timing.
Okay. Any other discussion or motion?
Or are we doing motions?
So I believe if you're wanting a motion to approve, it'd be approving the Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution 2024-910 as written.
That one I can do.
That's what you want to do, Mike?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Motion to approve Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution 24-910.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So seconded by Shannon. Any further discussion? So I looking at my list, I want to bring up one other thing, Mark. The north and south expansion of the buildings, and there was talking about the different percentages. Has there been an agreement of it or just the condition that you're gonna discuss it?
You mean material percentages? The building as is, including the expansion walls, meets the minimum requirements of the ordinance, with the exception of, based on my recommendation, the addition of some transom windows or some other similar decorative material in the south expansion wall. So my presumption is that once those expansions occur, and it's very, very hard to see here, but it's the dashed line in the south as a conceptual expansion area, and the dashed line on the north as a conceptual expansion area. My presumption is that when those expansions occur, that the walls, the final walls, will be finished in a manner that's more like what we see on the east and the west walls, which is precast concrete, stone, other kind of details. I don't know if I'm getting at your question or not.
I think that's what I was asking, but I thought I read that you talked about upgrading some of the south wall versus what was in the plan. I didn't know how far that discussion went yet.
Yeah, okay. The rezoning of the property came with conditions that suggested that the site should be developed to basically a higher standard than we'd expect in the middle of an industrial park, because the area is kind of a mixed use and transitional area between industrial and commercial use. One of those conditions was that the south wall be dressed up, for lack of an architectural term, some. And I'm suggesting it be dressed up just a little bit more. And it's there's some options there, arc transom windows, decorative light fixtures, as to how that might be dressed up. Meanwhile, the automatic decorative material percentage for the entire 4 walls is currently at 14.5%. So if they were to do this that I've highlighted in blue, I think they'd get to 15% without having to count any of the other concrete or other materials as quote unquote decorative.
Jim? We do have somebody on Zoom that has their hand raised, Al Hansen, but I don't believe that he's associated with the Quick Trip team. I think he might just be joining the meeting as a public item, but I wanted to make you aware so you could address that.
But Brandy, Al would be muted currently, right? Can you unmute him so I can ask what's his question?
Hey there.
Hey, Al,
Oh.
this is out of order, but I'm just curious. I saw your hand up. Were you wishing?
Oh, yeah, I was waiting
Yes,
until
under the public
questions were gonna be
comment.
asked, but I just had a real quick question about the wellhead. Earlier referred to it as a WP wellhead. What does WP stand for?
Mark,
Wellhead protection. It's just an acronym for the zoning district that overlays and extends 1,200 feet from the well.
Got it. All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Al. So currently have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed?
Jim, I would like to abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. So motion passes 5-0-1. And I believe we are now on 5.5 as far as the recommendation. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct, Jim.
And up on screen in the green box is staff's recommendation.
There's one item I'd like to focus on here. By the way, this is up on screen in the green and not in the resolution because this is a recommendation to the village board. The village board will have to approve an ordinance to approve the CSM because it's got dedicated right away. The recommendation is with a waiver to allow this sidewalk situation that we're talking about along Pepsi Way to occur. Path on north side, no sidewalk on the south side. It also covers mature tree mitigation. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit because among the couple of issues we've discussed since the release of the report, this was one of them. Quick Trip is proposing to mitigate under the ordinance to plant 2 new deciduous canopy trees for every 1 mature tree, 12-inch plus tree that's being removed as part of the development of the site. We're not, at least at present, I was not sure when that would be, those trees would be planted. It could be 6 months from now, it could be 6 years from now, depending on when the associated sites developed. I had suggested in 2E, a deed restriction in the areas of where the trees are being removed to basically put the future builder of the sites to the east of the distribution center on notice that they're going to have to plant more trees than they may have otherwise thought. And I still stand by that recommendation, but another option that Quick Trip may want to undertake is just to plant the trees now and not have to deed restrict the property, find an appropriate spot kind of out of the way on those sites or in the area to mitigate right now. My suggestion on 2E would be to still provide this option of the deed restriction, but at the end, perhaps adding that, or the owner could mitigate now without a deed restriction. Other than that, I have no comments on the recommended CUP or CSM conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any further discussion? Is there a motion? Again, the staff's recommendation is in front of us, and Mark had that discussion of a potential add to 2E. Mike?
I'll make a motion to recommend P&Z adopt a motion recommending the village board approve the 3-lot CSM for Quick Trip Satellite Campus subject to the stated waivers and conditions.
Thank you, Mike. Can I ask a clarification? Did that also include an amendment to the 2E that, or like Mark's discussion?
Is intended to, yes.
Yes, thank you, Mike. So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Colleen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I want to bring up one thing though, with the sidewalk.
Mhm.
I personally feel it'd be appropriate to ask for a 5-foot easement along that south side of Pepsi Way for a potential future sidewalk. For, say, in order to get the waiver.
Yep.
That's my opinion, but I would look at Mike and Colleen as being the makers of the motion, if you're willing to accept that as a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Yep, thank you, Mike and Colleen. So Mark or Brandy, do you have that noted, or how do you want to note
Yeah,
that?
I would just say we'll add a 2F that would require the addition of a 5-foot public access easement along the south side of Pepsi Way.
Okay, thank you. Craig?
So that makes sense. I think that once you get down to where that intersection of Metro Drive is, that's no longer in Quick Trip's ownership at that point. So in theory was gonna have to stop at the limit of the CSM.
Right, which would also be the connection, say the East Metro, if it would happen.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Craig. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained?
Abstain.
So motion passes 5-0-1. Thank you all. Item 5.6, discussion and recommendation on the vacation of a segment of Metro Drive in conjunction with its relocation associated with Quick Trip Satellite Campus and Highway 51 intersection reconfiguration in the Village of DeForest. Mark, anything more?
Briefly, upon further consideration and discussion among staff, we are no longer recommending the vacation of that segment. So no action is recommended.
Okay. Is there anybody wanting to make any motion, or we will let it go without action and it will go to the floor or whatever the term is? Thank
May I
you.
ask a question?
Yes, Mike?
Mark, what was the rationale, I might ask?
And others can explain this further, but the initial recommendation that I put together would have released from public ownership the segment of Metro Drive that's in the red crosshatch on the map. For various reasons, we thought it would be a better idea for the village to hang on to that. It could be part of an intersection improvement in that immediate vicinity if needed. It could be part of a longer range improvement for Highway 51 and Pepsi Way. The process of vacating that land might be a little bit confusing. Vacated land typically goes to abutting owners on either side. You can see why that might be a little bit confusing in this situation logistically. It's not needed for development of the land to the south. It's a little bit irregularly shaped for public or for private development. Those are some of the reasons that I thought just keeping it might be the better approach.
Seems to make a lot of logical sense. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would add too, I've seen similar situations where it becomes very useful with the utilities and stuff too, so. Any other things, Mike? Anybody else? Go ahead. Seeing nothing, we will let 5.6 go and move on to 5.7. Discussion and action on a resolution recommending amendments to the future land use map in the Village of DeForest Comprehensive Plan affecting the future land use designations of both the parcel west of Farm and Fleet and east of Savannah Brooks in the Village of DeForest. Right.
I can open this up, but I know the applicants are here as well, and I'd encourage them to come up. But this is the proposal or the first approval step of the proposal that the commission saw in concept in March.
I'm sorry, Mark, if I could just pause. I don't know if there's anybody here from Quick Trip. I just want to wish them luck. I think we're done with the agenda items for Quick Trip tonight. Thank you very much for coming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
You wouldn't.
thank you. Best of luck. Yeah.
This is from Continental Properties, a proposal for multiple family development in TID 8, just west of the Fleet Farm project. So this came before you in concept in March. This is the first approval step, which would propose to amend the comprehensive plan to facilitate the development proposal. Here's the current development concept for the site, Fleet Farm located here, Tierney Crossing, which comes into the development from Highway 19 would be extended to serve this development, as would a second road extending west of the Quick Trip development. The proposed action before you tonight is to recommend an amendment to the village's comprehensive plan. The exhibit I have up here is the future land use map within the comprehensive plan. At present, the pink or salmon color represents future quote unquote shopping and services use, basically commercial service and retail only. And the purple represents a recommendation for future mixed or flexible commercial or residential development. The ask is to designate redesignate the future land use map such that all of a Continental site would be within the mixed commercial residential category. After tonight and the village board meeting next week, the Continental would come forward with rezoning approval, other requests to facilitate this development, assuming that the conditional or the comprehensive plan amendment were approved.
So looks like we've got the applicant here. If you could maybe state your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. Katie Skelton, West 134 North 8675 Executive Parkway, Menominee Falls.
Thank you. Anything you want to add before we enter discussion?
I do have a presentation I prepared for tonight if you're open to hearing it. Okay. Great. So happy to be here tonight. Thanks for having us to present our comp plan amendment. As you may remember, Continental Properties are based out of Menominee Falls. We were founded in 1979. Some of our achievements include 125 communities built, over 35,000 homes across 19 different states. We're a long-term owner-operator of our communities. Here are some of our communities in the Madison area. The most comparable to this project would be the Springs at Sun Prairie and the Springs at Pleasant View. Continental was attracted to the Madison area market, particularly DeForest, because of the 11-year track record of steady supply and demand, driven by the high demand and the modest supply growth. We found the market occupancy of 98.2%. And in the past 5 years, Madison area has sustained consistent occupancy of just under 98%. So we think our proposed development of 320 multifamily homes would be perfectly positioned to meet the growing demand for quality housing in this area. So the site we're looking at is the northeast corner of Dalmore Road and Tierney Crossing, just behind the Fleet Farm. We've identified this location as a path to growth. You've seen that the Village of DeForest 5-year annual projection of population growth is twice more than the Madison Metro. DeForest, along with Windsor and Waunakee, are 3 of the 13 fastest growing municipalities in Wisconsin since 2020. We've seen 6,200 jobs within a 3-mile radius and over 254,000 jobs within the average commute time. This property is located along the major interchange with over 79,000 drivers passing by each day, giving our residents convenient access to the major employment nodes. As a part of this development, we'll be constructing over 3,000 linear feet of public roads and utility extension, being Tierney Crossing, an east to west connecting road, and an eastern road behind Fleet Farm extending north. The major employment expansions we've seen in this area are the East Park Medical Center, Amazon Distribution Center, and the Exact Sciences. Here are some of our resident demographics from our portfolio. We've seen that the average household income in our Madison area portfolio is $122,000 per year. And in a 3-mile radius of the site, the median income is $104,000 and the median home price in the zip code is $518,000. So Continental's community would offer DeForest residents an affordable place to live with a rent to income ratio at 20%, with the mortgage expense equaling 34% of a resident's total income. And because we own and operate our properties long-term, we found that our two highest demographic groups are ages 20 to 34, and then the second highest group being ages 50 and up. And within a 3-mile radius of the site, we found that those growth rates are 2% and 3.3% respectively. Here's some information on the school-age children that we're estimating for this development. So we'd estimate roughly 45 school-age children, which is made up of 12 high schoolers, 6 middle schoolers, 21 elementary school, and 6 preschool-age children. We anticipate all of those children at full stabilization, which is Q1 of 2027. This community would have a significant economic benefit to the area with 191 jobs over the course of development, construction, and operations, including 5 full-time positions for our on-site management and staff. It would contribute to 24.3 million in resident spending to the local economy. And this can help spur commercial growth and broaden the potential for commercial users to come to this area. So here's our site plan. We're still working through some challenges we've had with engineering for existing grade. So you may notice the building configuration has changed since some previous plans you may have seen. But our development is a result of extensive collaboration. We've been working with the village since November to create a plan. This plan still includes 320 garden-style multifamily homes, with the main access point being off of Tierney Crossing, connecting from Dalmore Road, extending north, then connecting from an east to west road to the eastern road that will also connect from Dalmore, extending north by Fleet Farm. All of the public roads will include public utilities that will be stubbed at the adjacent parcels' property lines. The part of this development will be unlocking 53.7 acres of land through the construction of public infrastructure and utilities. That's 11.5 acres to the south, 7.5 acres to the west of Tierney Crossing, 21.1 acres to the northeast, the Ballwig land, and 13.4 acres to the northwest, the Livesey land. Here's an example of our garden-style homes. As you can see, the courtyards have beautiful curb appeal and are thoughtfully landscaped. And here's an example of our direct access units. So every time a resident opens the door, it's their own unit. There are no shared common areas or walkways. This direct access option is a really attractive feature for our residents that are ages 65 to 85. And here's an example of our clubhouse, which serves as a recreational and social gathering area for our residents. And it's also where our on-site property management team will sit. Here's the future land use map, as Mark mentioned in his presentation, just shading it for what's included in our development. So in this northern blue portion, the comprehensive plan allows for 24 dwelling units an acre. And our current density is 13.2 dwelling units an acre. So it's well within the density allowance. So we're seeking a comprehensive plan amendment for the area in red, which is 4.5 acres to allow for residential. So it's roughly 78% of our development is in line with the comprehensive plan. So we're requesting the remaining 22% to be amended. As a next step, we would continue to work with staff on our plan and eventually submit for a rezone application. So now I appreciate all of your time and consideration. I'd like to open it up to see if there's any questions on the comprehensive plan amendment.
Any questions? I guess I have one question. It might be a question for Mark though. Because if you could go back to like our recommendations or something in the staff report, there was a bit of a green circle too. That looked to be like the existing land. I guess that would be the comprehensive plans, future land use, there was a green circle and I don't see that shown.
Sure. So, the, comprehensive plan amendment that is in the resolution would be everything that Katie and Continental have asked for, plus extending that recommendation west to the county lands that Don Tierney would continue to own and control. Some of that land has been planned for stormwater management. And that's the green area that you should see, the green rectangle that I'm circling right now.
Okay,
And I think a lot of that land would continue to be used for stormwater management, though not exactly in the same area in their plans. What will happen is once we get a certified survey map to divide the land, if this is public ownership, it'll be in an outlot. If it's private ownership, it can be restricted. In any case, the environmental corridor that caused this area to be colored green would shift along with it.
okay. What about the green that's above the blue line? Is that?
I
sort
think
of
that was
shifting?
also envisioned conceptually as an environmental corridor in the urban service area application that brought all this area into the urban service area, but I don't recall. In any case,
But I
again,
think
if,
that green is in their development, so that would probably shift with the stormwater.
that's also correct, Jim, right? Yeah, the urban, when we're at urban service area stage, we usually have, broad concepts of where stormwater may be handled without reference to specific development proposals. And almost always those areas change when we get specific development proposals and we know more precisely where and how much stormwater management is required. So we'll see those areas shift. We saw them shift in Hooper's headquarters a lot as that land developed and in other locations as well.
Okay. I just mainly wanted to bring them up because I didn't know if we wanted or if we needed to have that green turn into the magenta at this point too.
In my opinion, no, because I think it was again related to stormwater management.
Okay. It's probably outside.
Probably doesn't
because we
matter
can't
either.
really do it at this point now because it wasn't part of the hearing.
Yeah, perhaps not. You have the right though to make minor amendments to areas as long as they're within the general flavor.
And actually I misspoke because it's not a hearing. So what is this discussion?
It's a recommendation and the hearing will be before the village board next week.
Okay.
The future land use map is not a zoning map. We try to get where we see, differences that are as significant as what's being proposed right now. We go through the amendment process. If instead all Continental was looking for was a development that would creep 50 feet over a future land use boundary on this map, we would not put them through a comp plan amendment process because these maps, like this map, is intended to be a general vision for future land use. And in fact, there's a disclaimer on the map that says that. So I don't feel, if this were a zoning map, I'd feel 100% like, yeah, we should clean this up so that there's not a sort of a green blob in their development proposal. But given that it's not, that it's a vision map, and that environmental corridor in particular is there probably based on a concept for stormwater, I don't have concern that it's going to impede their development.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. So right now we're still in discussion and if we could pull up the action too.
Yeah, and if I could mention one other thing, unrelated, except based on the current landowner, this resolution would approve a small connection to the future land use map further east along Highway 19. It's shown as Exhibit B to the resolution. The 5-acre parcel to the east of Savannah Brooks, currently undeveloped portion of Savannah Brooks within the Homestead Edition. Was partially designated for two-family townhouse scale development in 2020 by the village board after recommendation of the commission. We updated, as you know, the full comprehensive plan in 2023. For reasons I cannot explain, the entire parcel was designated as environmental corridor during that update process, some glitch. And so what our recommendation along with this, within this resolution, is to redesignate it like it was before that 2023 map glitch occurred. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. That was part of the resolution as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-911 for amendments to the future land use map in the Village of DeForest Comprehensive Plan affecting parcels both west of Fleet Farm and east of Savannah Brook.
Thank you, Colleen. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Shannon. Any further discussion? Jean or Lisa, if you have discussion, please speak up because I cannot see you on screen right now. But
No
hearing
discussion.
none, thank you. Hearing none, I will ask all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Katie.
Thank you all.
There is no presentations. So number 7.1 is chair's report. I'll just look at trying to use my hands and the microphone at the same time. We got the police department's annual report. We accepted some T grants. Thank you, Judd. T grants are grants from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation that helps fund some of our roadway improvements so it doesn't fall all the way back onto the citizens. That was nice. Minor amendments. I don't remember what that was. I think that's something that we talked about earlier. And then on May 7th, going back then, not a whole lot there. We thanked Julie Mayhew. I said her for 16 years of service. So that was a big accomplishment for her. We had a school board came in front of the village board and gave us a presentation about more or less the status of their financials and other things, I guess. Judd left, but he also talked about the urban deer management plan. More things about the T grant. CSM for Dental Road and Interstate. That would have been, that was what, I forget, likewise. So that was in front of us and that was approved there. And a number of different things for likewise. I guess I will end my chair's report based on those few things. Staff report? Randy or anybody?
I have one thing and then I think Alex has something as well, unless you want me to do it both of them, doesn't matter. So just wanted to recognize that Rachel, who's been assisting me part-time and working part-time, mostly full-time for the front end, has officially transitioned over to the community development team as one of our team members. So you'll be seeing a lot more of her involvement in emailing and, you know, information gathering and tracking and our Guy Friday, basically. So we're very excited about that. I'll let you hit up the community meeting.
I don't know the Guy Friday reference. Am I too young for that?
It's Gal Friday, I think.
Yeah,
What
Friday.
is it from? It's like a detective show or something. Oh, you're too
okay.
young.
I
think it's Gal
bel-
Friday.
I believe I had sent out an email inviting you all to a housing community engagement presentation and discussion this Saturday. We will be rescheduling that. So you'll get another email from me at probably either tonight or tomorrow, rescheduling that for likely September. We did go through a series of small focus groups, I think I'd mentioned, with some stakeholders, and we completed that. So hopefully by the time we have the broader meeting rescheduled, we'll have a lot of the analysis done from those focus groups. And they were, I'll tell you, three of us sat in on those and they were really insightful. So we're excited to be bringing that to you all at some point. Yeah.
Thank you. So 7.3 site plan approvals. 7.4 CSM approvals.
I approved one today, but I couldn't get it on the agenda, so it'll be on next month's agenda.
7.5 development processes and enforcement suggestions. Anybody? Seeing none, our next meeting date is June 25th. Any comments about that, Brandy? Is it full agenda?
It's a full agenda as of right now, so
Okay,
yes.
no special meeting yet.
Not at this time.
Okay. So item number 8, adjournment. Anybody willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion by Shannon, seconded by Colleen. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned unanimously at 7:12. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jean and Lisa.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thanks. Congratulations, Rachel.
Yeah, congrats, Rachel.
Thank you.